Good morning, ladies, gents and Pikachus and all Muslims who I am replying to. This is a personal response to all my Muslim commenters who all have this same question, and it's caused by the propagandized view that they have from reading their Quran of the Muslims. This is the reason why they have this error in their thinking. So, the error that I'm getting at is Muslims seem to think that Allah is the same as Yahweh, and they go around constantly saying everyone worships Allah, they just don't know that they're worshipping Allah and Allah is God. But this proves that they have not read the Quran of the Muslims at all, and neither have they any knowledge of God, who is Yahweh, out of the Old Testament and the Gospel. So why do I say this? Well, if you compare the two characters before you've even had a relationship with these two beings, which I have had a relationship with both these beings, before that happens, when you've just read about them, from what has happened over thousands of years, Allah introduces himself as a hateful, jealous God who commands you, O Muslims, to go mercying everybody on earth who isn't a Muslim constantly until they're all completely dead, by chopping off their heads so that he can put them to bed in fire. He can tuck their little fiery covers in hell and have them burn forever in that bed. That is Allah. Yahweh, on the other hand, says mercy is not killing people. Allah is completely the opposite in that way. Yahweh says mercy to us, Jews and Christians, is to not kill Muslims. The only way we are allowed to kill Muslims is if they are literally trying to kill us and they won't stop and we can't reason with them. And then, to save ourselves from murder, which is what they will be doing to us by cutting off our heads, then we are allowed to kill them. But even after we've killed them, God says they won't burn forever in hell. They won't be tormented forever. Not by us anyway. And we certainly won't be cutting off their heads. After we kill these Muslims that are trying to kill us, we have to give them a proper burial and then say a prayer for them. But Allah doesn't say that. Allah says to you, you should cut my head off and then cheer over my dead body like you've had some great victory. Yeah, I'm so glad. That is the mercy of Allah. The mercy of Allah in this book, the Quran of the Muslims, is cutting off people's heads in their sleep or while they're awake, while they're running away or while they're in battle. It doesn't matter. He makes no distinction. And he calls it mercy because he has commanded you to bully and harass and discriminate against everyone who is a non-Muslim. And in the words of Allah, it is better to kill someone who is a non-believer than to leave them alive and then just bully and discriminate and harass them for their whole life, which is what he orders you to do. So point one is Allah thinks mercy is killing someone, whereas God thinks mercy is not killing someone. The complete opposite thing. Then the second thing that you will know, if you have a relationship with either of these beings and you've read these books, is that their idea of peace is completely different. It's the opposite. Allah says to you Muslims, you will be a religion of peace. Notice he doesn't say you are a religion of peace. You won't have peace while you're alive. Allah explicitly tells you this, O Muslim. You do not have peace until you have mercied, i.e. killed and murdered, every single non-believer on the planet. So you have to literally depopulate the whole planet of everyone who is not a Muslim by mercilessly cutting off their head in their sleep or, wherever when they're running away from you. And then and only then, after you have completely genocidally murdered every single other person on earth who is not a Muslim, who did not worship Allah, then you will have peace and you will have paradise. You don't have it at any point while you're alive. And that is the complete opposite of the God of the Old Testament and the Gospels, who says you will have peace now through following God's advice. And God's advice is don't go around murdering people because it will bring you to sin. And that will be the thing that causes you to not have peace. So that's another bit of evidence. Then you think, how does Allah treat human beings? And how does he speak to human beings? Well, in Genesis, the first human that is created is Adam. And Adam is born into a beautiful paradise garden of Eden with lovely clean flowing water, nice temperate weather, a canopy of trees for shade, unlimited amounts of fruits for free. So when God creates Adam, he puts him down in a world already made for him. The crash of life is already there. There's food, there's water, there's safety, there's nothing that's going to kill him. And not only that, God separates evil out of Adam and hides it in this tree over here and says, don't eat that tree, it's poisonous. And then he creates Adam a friend called Eve, who is to be his wife. And he says to Adam, Eve is your equal, Adam. She is to be your wife, and you are to cleave together as one being and stay together for the rest of time. That's husband and wife. You're created as equal partners, and there will be no other wives. But Allah doesn't do that. Allah, in his Quran of the Muslims, says to Adam, you shall have 10 wives, and your wife shall only have you as a husband, so they're not equal. In fact, Allah demonstrates throughout this book that he hates women. He fucking can't stand women. He bullies and harasses them and subjugates them way more than he should. Way more than men. They're not equal at all. And the way that we know this is because he expressly says it in here. Plus, the first interaction that God has with Adam is God says to Adam, you will be a loving and compassionate and a kind, sinless creature because I've made you like me. And I've pulled all the evil stuff out of you and put it somewhere else. Allah, on the other hand, Allah's first interaction with Adam is to surround Adam with his angels so he can't get away and bully him by calling him an idiot and making him feel bad for not knowing everything, and then manipulating Adam into learning hidden secrets of heaven and earth, which caused them both to be thrown out of Eden and have to live upon the earth. But then he doesn't stop there. Allah then says to Adam, I lied to you earlier. I didn't actually mean, when I said I was going to raise you above the angels and teach you about everything on earth, what I actually meant was I was going to teach you on everything on earth, apart from how to find food and water. And now, Adam, you're going to have to worship me, otherwise I will kill you. And while you're doing this, Adam, you have to go off and find your own food and water. I'm not going to supply that for you. So once again, we see it's the complete opposite. Allah doesn't give Adam food and water. He says you've got to go and find your own. Adam isn't told by Allah, you are a compassionate, kind being who is going to be sinless. Allah says to Adam, you will have to worship me and find your own food and water, and you won't be sinless, because if you don't worship me and do everything I tell you, i.e. kill people, I am going to hurt you and kill you, Adam. That's what Allah says. So it's the complete opposite. And my final point is this. Let's say you've never had a Quran to read, so you don't know about Allah. Let's say you've never read the Old Testament or the Gospels, so you don't know about God. If you pray to God, not Allah, if you pray to God who is Yahweh, and you meet him, or you meet his son, Christ, and you have an experience of communicating with them, when you do that, you will know they're completely different to Allah if you communicate with him. And I can tell you, because I've communicated through both. Allah, who is Satan, now I know what his real true intentions and his personality are. Allah, when you communicate with him, puts fear and confusion into you and torments you in order to manipulate you into doing the things he wants to do, which is kill people and not have peace, to cause war and division upon the earth. When you are escaping from this guy, because he wants you to do everything he tells you and worship him, otherwise you're dead, when you're escaping from him, he will injure you and cause you pain. Even if you're running towards this other guy, God, who is merciful and will protect you, Allah, on the way out, because he's pissed off at you, will cause you injury and pain and try and kill you. Whereas God, when you arrive over to him, and by the way, God never put you on your knee and said, you must worship me or I will kill you. He never says anything like that. He never instructs us to go and kill Muslims, ever. He tells us not to do that. When we are under God's protection, we have a relationship with God, he stops this guy, Allah, from injuring and hurting us. He actually stops that. Not only that, you don't have to work for God. You don't have to serve God. He will protect you and be nice to you and provide for you just because you're alive. He values you as a human being, whereas Allah doesn't. And then the end of that point is, if you decide, because you love God and you think he's great and merciful and wise and powerful and forgiving, like Allah claims to be, but demonstrates in his Quran of the Muslims that he is completely not and is lying about, if you decide to work for God and you start to worship him and you offer yourself as his servant, He will empower you to do good in the world, not to go around killing people, not to go around making a holy war, not to go around planting rude comments under every single video that doesn't agree with him, Allah. You will be so rewarded working for God and offering God's mercies to the world, which is not killing people, it's actual true mercy. So that's the end of this video. In conclusion, read the Quran and the Torah and the Gospels, and then we will talk, because you don't know anything about either one of these characters. You don't know about Allah, and you don't know about Yahweh. So read these things to give yourself a background and to learn how to communicate with these two beings. And then you will know when you speak to God, He will tell you He is not Allah. He is good. He will tell you that Allah is Satan and bad, and that the things Allah is commanding you to do are manipulations, tricks, to get you out of the good life that God has intended for you. And that's the end of this video. So I hope you enjoyed that. Like I say, if you don't believe me, buy one yourself. The Quran of the Muslims from any good bookshop or from Amazon. Read it yourself and you'll find out that every word I'm telling you is true. And then have a relationship with God and you'll be at peace. Not because your head's cut off, you'll still be alive during this peace. So that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you in the next one. Bye now. It's the same as saying, I've got a friend called Steve. Everyone in the world who knows someone called Steve is actually speaking to my Steve. You're just lying. You don't know Steve really. Every Steve is my Steve. And that's the end of this video. So I hope you enjoyed that. God bless, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.